Welcome to part 2 of playing every version of Pac-Man. I'm not going to play every version. That's because some of them I straight up can't. Like, any of them that require an iPhone or a Mac, I can't do. I can't do any of those. Because emulating iPhones and Macs is still impossible. And finding old versions of Android versions of Pac-Man, that's pretty difficult too. I can't do that either. But yeah. But before we actually get on with playing the mobile and PC versions of Pac-Man, I actually want to do a little update on the previous versions, because there's a lot of Pac-Man that I missed. Now, I'm just going to straight up just skip the Switch. I know I missed a bunch of Switch versions of Pac-Man. It's all the same fucking game at the end of the day, who cares? But there are some that I legitimately didn't talk about that I didn't know existed. And I also got access to a few more Pac-Man as well. By a few more, I mean one. But still. And another thing I should say is, when we do get to the PC section, I'm not going to be talking about the Pac-Man that I already talked about in the first video. So all the ones that I talked about for Xbox One, like the Namco Archives, Pac-Man Museum Plus, I already talked about those, and the PC version is the exact same. So yeah, let's get on with the Pac-Man that I missed, or I can now actually review. So the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis did have a version of Pac-Man, but getting to it is such a pain. To get to it, you have to play Pac-Man 2, which already isn't the best game to play, and you need to find the arcade, which if you just keep going right, you'll eventually find it. And go into the arcade, show Pac-Man that there's a Pac-Man arcade machine, and play Pac-Man. It's not worth the setup. They're based on the NES version of Pac-Man, which already isn't the best version of Pac-Man. But, I mean, at least it's something. At least you can play Pac-Man on the Super Nintendo and Genesis. Another thing is, the Super Nintendo and Genesis do have a difference with that arcade, in that they have different games. They both have Pac-Man, but the Super Nintendo has Miss Pac-Man, while the Genesis has Pac-Man Jr. I just thought that was interesting. But yeah. Still, though, it's not worth it. Especially if you have a Super Nintendo, get a Super Game Boy and just put, like, the Game Boy version of Pac-Man. That's the closest you're getting. So after doing the tedious task of going back to the arcade, the game crashing, changing the emulator, then going back to that arcade, and the game finally working, the sound is really crunchy, and I'm not a fan of it. I'm not gonna lie, though, I love the death sound, though. That death sound kinda goes hard. But yeah. Honestly, I think the Super Nintendo one's your best bet, but again, for how long it takes just to get into a game of Pac-Man, it's not worth it. So, would I recommend would I recommend the Super Nintendo and Genesis version of Pac-Man? No. Just because it's such a pain in the ass to even play it. Namco Museum on the original Xbox. I talked about the blue menu, and I finally get to see the blue menu in person. Though, sadly, I do not have the 50th anniversary version of Namco Museum, but that's just the same as all the others. While this one, you know, the difference is blue menu, and the screen size actually makes a difference. But yeah, I did have an issue, though, and that's with the original Xbox controller. Since I did play this on actual original Xbox hardware, these sticks do not feel like they work very well with Pac-Man. Like, these were meant for, like, actual games, not arcade games. And I was a lot more comfortable using the D-pad, which, if you're going to play Pac-Man, I would use a stick. But in this case, I think the D-pad is perfect since, again, the sticks don't really feel that good. I also don't have a Duke controller. I have the redesign controller, the S. So it has a normal D-pad, but still. However you see it, this game is not that good. So if you're going to pick up Namco Museum or the 50th anniversary, I wouldn't really recommend the Xbox version. I'd probably recommend the PS2 or GameCube version.
The first game on our list is Pac-Man for iOS and Android. It's just called Pac-Man. And it's asking me for my age. Why the fuck does Pac-Man need my age? Well, it's for the ads. Nice. It's fucking Pac-Man. And finally actually getting into the game, this is not Pac-Man. No, this is like a story mode for Pac-Man. Ugh. And I shit you not, after 5 fucking levels of this story mode, we can finally play real Pac-Man. And it sucks. Besides all the weird minor things, like the death animation being really fast and some music just not playing correctly, like coffee break in the menus is just slowed for no reason. And the actual coffee break, since clicking on level 1 of classic mode immediately takes you to level 2 of Pac-Man, I don't know why. When the actual coffee break plays, it doesn't even get to finish the second loop. And also, this version just doesn't control that good because it requires swiping. And since iPhones are super fucking sensitive for no goddamn reason, swiping means sometimes you'll just turn around or go in a completely different direction than where you wanted to go, making it more jittery than the fucking snapback of the damn plug-and-play version. So yeah, overall, this is not a good way to play Pac-Man. On top of also having ads, I really would not recommend playing the iOS or Android version of Pac-Man. If you really want to play Pac-Man, download an emulator and a ROM. And there you go. And now it's time for our last mobile Pac-Man game, Pac-Maze Escape Runner. Now, I'm not going to be doing the Android store because honestly I can't be bothered. So we're just doing the iPhone stuff. Because I'm pretty sure the Android games are all the exact same. And let me tell you, this game is a knockoff of Pac-Man 256 and the mobile Pac-Man game with the story mode. So that's already a good start. It's a knockoff of 2 different Pac-Man games. And I honestly recommend turning off the sound, because just getting the dots is annoying as shit. And also, I can't lie, the music is kind of a banger. So much so that I actually ripped it and uploaded it to my archive channel. Because it's so fucking good. Like, best damn music in the world. Even though it's just your average... Even though it's just your average random, like, stock music, it's still a fucking bop. But there was one thing that confused me, and that's why Among Us are in this game. Why is Among Us in this game? Why are these here? Yeah, but besides all those flaws, this one ain't too bad. But if you're gonna play Pac-Man on mobile, again, just get an emulator and a ROM of Pac-Man.
I really liked Pac-Man for Java Phone. Probably because every single piece of music and most sound effects are made with MIDIs. Which, honestly, for like eating the ghost and stuff, it honestly kind of feels like you're eating a ghost. Then there is the God awful coffee break theme, and the even worse death theme. But is this a good version of Pac-Man? Sure. Apparently it also has multiplayer support as well, which is kind of sick. But yeah, this Java Pac-Man is honestly pretty interesting. And it's just kind of neat, you know? And that was all the mobile versions of Pac-Man that I could find. Yeah, very short list, huh? Only like 2 real Pac-Man and 1 knockoff 256 clone. On to the PC versions. The BBC Micro has like 1,500 goddamn versions of Pac-Man on it. So I just chose the oldest one that was actually called Pac-Man. How's the game? It sucks. It sucks. I hate it so much. A, Z, N, and M is how you play. The game is very unresponsive, the sounds are annoying, and every time you die, the dots respawn. This is a really bad version of Pac-Man. Now, that Pac-Man that came out in 2020 for the BBC Micro, might actually be, like, really good. But I just chose the oldest one. And I don't think this computer actually had an official version of Pac-Man. Next up is the Apple II. It's okay. One of my biggest complaints is that the power pellet lasts a little too short. Like, I think it should last a little longer. And also, the fact that the intro music was Coffee Break and not the actual game start music is hilarious to me. And this game has support for 5 players. Jesus. But still, this one's okay. This one's also another one that uses A and Z to go up and down. I'm starting to think these consoles don't have an up and down button. I couldn't get this one to work. When I tried to boot it up in an emulator, it just never booted. And when I tried an online emulator, it wasn't the right game. Yeah, I couldn't get this one to work. And honestly, I don't think I was really missing much. Pac-Man on the Commodore 64. I don't know if this is official or not. I mean, everything points to it being official. And there's also the fact that it had this awesome intro and asked me for unlimited lives. No thanks. And again, I couldn't even play the game. So yeah, honestly, I don't even know if this is like official or not. And when it comes to the Commodore 64, it's really difficult to find official stuff. But I've looked around and I genuinely don't know. Pac-Man for the PC 8801. I think that was the version. Sucked ass. It's first of all, it's annoying. Second of all, you don't get a break. Again, the power pellet lasts a little too short. The game is just bad. And the map layout is weird. The ghosts are constantly chasing you. There's no there's no other state. It's just constantly chasing you. and I couldn't even finish one level. Yeah, overall, this version sucked, and for how long I had to set it up just to play it, yeah, no, it wasn't worth it. The FM7 has a version of Pac-Man. I have no clue how to use this fucking thing. I had to look up guides just to figure out how to load a game. Just for it to say that it didn't work. Jesus Christ. This thing is way too much of a pain in the ass just to play a version of Pac-Man, which probably wouldn't even be that good in the first place. Skipping the Sharp X one because I will genuinely start tweaking if I have to look up more information about obscure Japanese computers that has little to no documentation whatsoever. The emulator you can barely even download, and finding the ROMs themselves are really difficult. Let's skip straight to a console that actually does have documentation, is pretty well known, at least in the Japanese sphere, and actually has games for it that you can just look up. The X68000. And this version of Pac-Man is nice. It's a really good version of Pac-Man. And that's something interesting about the Sharp X68000 series. All the Namco games for them are, like, probably one of the best versions of those games. They have nice, soothe soundtracks sometimes, like Bosconian. And overall, they're really nice versions. Now, this version of Pac-Man does feel a little slow, but besides that, it's a really good version of the game, which is nice. It's a nice refresher from the troubles that I've been having with the other goddamn Pac-Mans. So yeah, I'd 100% recommend this one. Pac-Man for the ZX Spectrum makes me want to cry. Like, it's so bad. It doesn't even feel like Pac-Man. And the Power Pellet, I know I've complained about it being too short. The Power Pellet lasts way too long in this version. Like, I practically cleared out the entire board without even giving the ghosts a chance to become normal again. But besides that, it's not too bad. But I mean, it's not the best way to play Pac-Man. Pac-Man for the Amstrad CPC, for some reason, was really laggy. I have no clue why. All the other Internet Archive, like, emulation didn't lag. This one did. I have no clue why. And I have several issues with it. One, the ghosts always chase you. Why? There's no wonder state. At least I don't feel like it. And ghosts can go up from home, which sucks. They're not supposed to do that. And also, I'm starting to realize a lot of these have a green ghost. Why? Why is this like a common theme? I just noticed it. A handful of these had a green ghost. There is no green ghost in Pac-Man. But yeah, overall, this isn't really that interesting. So, I ain't got much to say about it. Would I recommend it? Not really. Pac-Man for MSX. I'll keep this one short so we can talk about the funny one. But for being a Pac-Man clone, because I'm not sure if this is official or not, it's really good. It's like surprisingly decent. Now, the maze feels small. I don't know if it actually is smaller than the normal Pac-Man maze, but it just feels small. It feels kind of claustrophobic to play this version, and it's clearly based off the NES version. But besides that, it's a pretty decent version of Pac-Man. Now let's get on to the funny one. This is Joey, Paul, Willie, and Frankie. oh shit slash shit slash oh no is a knockoff of the MSX version of Pac-Man. And it's most notable for its text-to-speech, saying the names of the ghost, which are just like stupid names, and the famous death sound. But yeah, so how is this as a Pac-Man knockoff? It's pretty good. But, like, if you're going to play Pac-Man on MSX, you can either choose, like, the really good MSX version, or you can play the one with the funny text-to-speech voice. What the hell is going on? But for real though, the official version of Pac-Man for DOS isn't really that interesting. There isn't much to say about it except for green ghosts. There's more of them now. They're starting to spread. And the ear-piercing sounds that this game makes constantly. Don't even get me started when a ghost is just eyes. But besides that, there isn't really much to talk about it, and it's overall just an version of Pac-Man. So our next segment is Windows, and God knows how many Pac-Mans have been released on Windows. Heck, even just the ones that were released on web browsers alone. So I'm just going to get through as many of these as I can. Again, these are not exactly the easiest to find when looking up, because if you just look up Pac-Man for PC, it's just going to come up with like the Steam page of the Pac-Mans I've already reviewed for Xbox One. So yeah. But anyway, let's get on with the weird individual Pac-Man releases and Namco museums as well. Pac-Man, or Chomp, on the Fun Pack is the most funny one out of all the games because it's the one with the most issues. It cannot be maximized, it has no sound, and on Pentium computers it may run a little too fast to play, which I can confirm it does run a little too fast to play. But the fact that this Pac-Man knockoff has so many issues is so interesting and funny. Would I recommend it? No. But it's just so funny how it has all these issues. Pac-Man for Microsoft Return to the Arcade Anniversary Edition. Now, why specifically the Anniversary Edition? Because the original didn't have the original Pac-Man on it. But it had Miss Pac-Man. And this version is a remake of Pac-Man. It is not a direct port. I can tell because, one, when you finish a level, the maze doesn't flash. And two, the coffee break cutscene is like a little fast. Like, the ghost touches Pac-Man. So, like, it's weird. But is this a good version of Pac-Man? Kinda. My only real complaint is the sound. Sounding like a Flash game. But besides that, there isn't really anything bad or wrong with it. So apparently Namco Museum 50th Anniversary had a PC port. Did not know that existed until making this video. And obviously, it's the best bang for your buck for Pac-Man, and the file that I got off Internet Archive is a really good file, because it doesn't even have the menus. That's my one downside of it. The Pac-Man is perfectly fine, it's 50th Anniversary Namco Museum Pac-Man, but I mean, the menus were everything. It had copywritten music, it was a nice visual. Yeah, this thing just gave you a blank menu, which sucks. I'm pretty sure a little bit of it's off screen too. That sucks even more. My presentation was everything. It even extracts the music files, which means the stuff for the normal menus there. But besides that, this is obviously your best bet if you want to play a lot of Namco games on your computer. is the Namco Museum 50th anniversary. Like I say with every other console, it's the most bang for your buck. The Pac-Man Doodle from Google is a pretty decent version of Pac-Man. What I don't like is that there's dead ends. That's really bad. Yeah, the E is not a very good spot. So that should be like one of the first ones that you get with a power pellet. And the G has a power pellet at the end, so that makes up for it. But still, this is an okay version of Pac-Man. I don't hate it. And it's not bad if you're just like bored in school and you need something to do real fast and you're bored of Snake, you know? But yeah, so the Google Doodle version of Pac-Man ain't too bad. We might as well talk about this one. This one isn't official, but I mean, it's such a classic part. We all played it when we were younger. Anti-Pac-Man, where you play as one of the ghosts and you try to get Pac-Man. There isn't much to the game, but I mean, it's a neat concept. You don't see it all that much, except for multiplayer Pac-Man games. But still, just to be able to play a single-player Pac-Man game where you're the ghost, that's pretty cool. Next up is Pac-Man Mini, which is actually kind of interesting because this is an officially licensed Bandai Namco created Pac-Man for HTML5 to play on their website. It's no longer available, but it is available on Flashpoint. And this was made by Bandai Namco? Because it sure doesn't seem like it. First of all, the ghosts look weird. Like, there's just something about them, man. And their state almost never changes. So which means they're constantly chasing Pac-Man. But they do have their go into their separate corner state, but the second you grab a power pellet, it automatically gets rid of that. So there's no point of even having it in the first place. So it's just, there's so many things wrong with this version of Pac-Man. The creators of Pac-Man made it. How did they fuck it up so bad? And I will be skipping the, 100 promotional Pac-Man that's out there, because they're all the same game at the end of the day. And I don't want to go repeat myself over and over and over for the exact same version of Pac-Man on the exact same platform. Because they're all just using a keyboard. And with that, that's all the versions of Pac-Man I can find for mobile phones and PC. I did skip through some, and I'm really sorry that I did. Because I didn't want to bother with them, or I'm just gonna say that you can't. The ones I didn't want to bother with are the PDA version of Pac-Man. I don't want to bother with that. I don't want to hunt down the files to the PDA version of Pac-Man just to have a lackluster experience. And there's some that I'm just sure you can't play anymore, like the Windows Phone version of Pac-Man. And of course, there's all the Apple devices. Like I said, I can't really do those except for the Apple II. So stuff like the iPod Classic version of Pac-Man, I can't do that. Unless I get an iPod Classic. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know if it was worth the year for a kinda short video, but hey, part 3 might be at least a tad bit longer. Or who knows, it might actually be shorter. But hey, I hope you enjoyed, I hope you enjoyed this video.